stop vlogging, stop flipping. If you're interested in making money off being an influencer and that's your whole goal of everything, you need to be doing repacks like right now. You should have been doing it last weekend and the weekend before and the weekend before that. Alrighty everybody, thanks for clicking on the video. James Cards FC here. It has been a while, but every now and then a topic comes up either through the card social media or in my own head that is just too good that I can't ignore it. And so over the weekend, I went a little bit on the deep end in terms of repacking because everybody's been talking about it in the hobby, and I did a deep dive on it, and I wanted to talk about how it's pretty much just an infinite money hack for influencers at this point. So I wanted to dig into that a little bit today with what I did some math on and watched in the brief moments that I subjected myself to watching repacks over this weekend to do some research for this video. But that's about what we're going to be talking about today, repacking and how it is the infinite money hack in the hobby right now. So a quick recap for those of you that aren't up to date with what is going on in terms of repacking. If you've heard of breaking in the hobby, which unless you're living under a rock, you know pretty much everything about at this point. You've heard of breaking. It's where a person or a company buys a box or a case of cards, and then individuals buy spots for the teams or players that are in that box. And this is what I would describe as the gateway drug to repacking. It's the start of the more gambling side of the market. You have people that buy cards to collect them. You have people that buy cards because they hope they go up in value. And then you have people that just buy spots in breaks in hopes that they hit certain players they want to collect or certain players that they want to make money on. And then you have this complete thing on the other end that is repacking, where this is full-on gambling at this point, and you're buying lottery spots in a random break, and you don't even sometimes know what's in the break for you. You're just vaguely throwing money around, hoping to get more money out of it. That's why I'm describing this as the gateway drug from which breaking started. This is a very serious analogy, in my opinion, both in terms of the addiction level and the questionable legality of both of these different things. In a lot of cases, I think this is akin to unregulated gambling more than it is sports card collecting or investing or whatever they're trying to market it as. So repacking, like I was talking about before, is the next level. This is where a person or a company running the repack places cards into 100, in this case we'll say 100, randomly numbered envelopes. People then buy these packs, which are the envelopes in the repack, and receive a card at complete random. Sometimes there is a checklist to these, sometimes there is not, sometimes there's a loose checklist, sometimes there's just an amount that is the max, an amount that is the min, an amount that is the average, and you don't know what cards are in it, but you're assuming that those numbers are true. So it's very loose in terms of the rules on it. On different platforms they have different rules. No one really has a direct guide on what makes it official versus not, which again, this goes to it more being unregulated gambling than it is some sort of sports card thing, but that's a conversation you can have with yourself or your friends and make your own conclusions for it. But in my opinion, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. This is full-on gambling. If you just use the definition of gamble on Google, it is to play games for a chance of money or to bet, and that's literally what you're doing in this case. But is it legal in the eyes of the law? Whatnot allows it as long as you follow their ever-changing rules. Currently, Whatnot says you need to give a floor price for the cheapest card that you could possibly hit in the repack. You need an average price, so the average price of the card in the repack, and then the max price of the cards in the casino game, or in this case, I'm sorry, I mean repack. It's hard because those two words are so similar, but yeah. So you need a floor price, cheapest card in the break, an average price, which is including the max price. So if you have something that's really expensive in one slot, it's going to bring up the average of the rest of the cards on the floor. So you have the average price, and then you have the max price, and that is how you can run your official casino game or official repack, as Whatnot would like you to call it. So who are buying into these repacks? Are these sports card enthusiasts that are, I honestly don't even know what you would call it. They just want new cards for their collection without knowing what it is. Are they degenerate gamblers? Are they kids? We'll go into this a little bit more later, but this is just the general background of it. And more importantly, at least for this video, in the case that I was making it, how much money are people actually making in this? Because you see posts from the more popular accounts. You have Card Collector 2, which has sponsored Whatnot streams. You have Sports Card Investor. Well, I don't think he does repacks yet. If he looks at the numbers, he should probably be doing it in the future with Whatnot on a sponsorship there. He is sponsored by Whatnot even if he doesn't have repacks. You have guys like Northeast Ohio Sports Cards, one of the bigger thought piece people in this space. He talks about how when he goes to shows, they're basically overrun with repackers now trying to buy things 80%, 90%, 100% of comps, and they're paying in cash, and they're bringing hundreds of thousands of dollars to the show and doing all these deals in cash, and it's crazy. And so with all this going around, I wanted to look into what is the money side of this really. So let's talk about how this is the Influencer Infinite Money hack. So, an influencer in this case would create content about the hobby, whether they go to shows or talk about the market sort of like I do or I used to do a lot more in the past. You would then gain a following and then use that following to assist in profit seeking, in this case getting people to buy into repacks. I don't know what kind of a pitch you're going to make, but this is some sort of altruistic, my fans really want me to run repacks sort of thing. I mean, you're just doing this to make money. It's not really helping anybody's life. You're just soothing them into this gambling game that you have. I don't think you can pitch this off as some sort of help for the hobby. This is just pure profit seeking. So, and there's nothing wrong with that, at least under the capitalist structure that we're currently in. So, repack strategy. Step 1, if you want to do this repack, you need to buy cards at wholesale type margins. So, for example, there's a card that sells for $100 on eBay. You would then go to a show and try and buy that card for $60 to $75, or however cheap you can get it versus what it actually sells for on the market every day. Standard margins in this sort of practice shift all the time, but typically the range of 60% to 90%, depending on price and liquidity, is what you would pay for a card at a show or in a bulk deal. So on the 60% end, you would have cheaper cards or cards of players that aren't as popular and are harder to move. And on the 90% side of the range, you'd have things like CJ Stroud Silver Prism PSA 10s. For my soccer fans, it'd be like an Mbappe Silver Prism PSA 10. For basketball, it'd be like a Wembanyama Silver PSA 10. So the more popular and mainstream the card, the higher percentage margin that you would have to give the seller in order to get to that card. Whereas at 60%, you would see things like, for my soccer fans, James Rodriguez Select Auto. Or for basketball, it would be like who's a random basketball player that I can think of? A Jordan Poole Patch Auto. Those aren't very popular right now because he had such a bad season. You could probably get that at 60% of comps. For the football watchers in the audience, something like oh goodness, I'm going to struggle with American football here. Hope I don't take too long to think of a random player. Think of a random quarterback that's not very good, but is decent. Matthew Stafford, like a Matthew Stafford rookie card would be somewhere in the middle. So that's step 1. You want to buy cards with wholesale margins, and you want to buy a lot of them. So then in step 2, you would then place those cards that you bought on margins into a repack product, include a few chasers is what they call it. These are just high value cards that they're using to entice the gamblers that they're marketing to. I mean collectors, which they would like me to say, to spend over the average price for a pack. So if you have a chaser that's worth $5,000, but spots in the break are an average of $500 a card, and there's a $50 floor, because people want that $5,000 card, they will spend over the advertised average. So instead of spending $500 for a pack, they'll spend like $550 or $600 or $750 to try and get that really expensive card that they have like a 2% chance of actually getting. Then there's step 3, which is where you just print the money. So since you already bought the cards at a discount of the market value and you were able to get your gambling addicted, loyal fans to spend over the average price for a pack, your margins are going to be crazy. And we're going to talk about what those margins are very soon. But before I get the influencers mad at me here, if they even feel like watching this video, which we'll see if they do or don't, attention to all influencers. I know some of you do watch this channel. At least you have in the past. Maybe I'm so unpopular now that you don't anymore, but I feel like you might watch this one. So, attention to all influencers out there that might stumble across this. Hello, thanks for joining the channel. I don't post much, but I felt like posting today. If you personally don't care about the questionable morality / legality of doing these repacks, you're literally missing out on free money if you're not doing them. Please stop vlogging, stop flipping. If you're interested in making money off being an influencer and that's your whole goal of everything, you need to be doing repacks like right now. You should have been doing it last weekend and the weekend before and the weekend before that. But if you're only concerned about money and you're in the sports card market and you're doing flipping and vlogging, all that kind of stuff, and you don't care about the ethics and morality / legality of this gambling thing, you need to be doing repacks like right now. And I'll show you the math behind it, but just getting that out of the way, influencers, you need to be doing this if you only care about the money. So James, how much money does this actually make? I'm glad you asked. We'll finally get into it. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me. Let's talk about Card Collector 2's $1 Million Casino. So, in case this video actually does get to Ryan, it would be the first time, I think, in this channel's history that a video would go that viral. But hi Ryan's team. Nothing against you guys. You're doing insanely good business here from a dollars and cents standpoint, but you also have one of the biggest platforms in the space, and you're sponsored by Whatnot, and you're featured extensively on Whatnot, and you talk about them a lot, so I'm gonna highlight you here. I think it's probably only fair to do so. So, on Sunday, which was 4/21/2024, the Card Collector 2 account went live on Whatnot for what they called the craziest mystery packs ever stream. So it was a very typical repack structure, at least from what I've seen in my limited time looking at repacks. I don't want to subject myself to it too much because I really don't like it, but this is the typical repack structure, and this is the structure that they used yesterday. So it was 100 packs, there were 20 chasers or high value cards, there was a $50 advertised floor, there was a $475 advertised average, and there was a $6,500 advertised max. So those are the variables you're playing with in this repack. I personally cannot be asked to sit through a 4-hour slot machine, repack stream, but in the 5 minutes that I did watch towards the beginning / middle of the stream when I was doing this research, the average pack was going for around $560, and I tried to look at the VOD, which is the past stream that you can look at, and it has like the recording of the entire stream. I couldn't figure out how to see how much people were bidding for cards, so I just didn't even try after a couple minutes. I don't really want to watch all these videos about repacking, so from what I was seeing, the average pack was going around for $560, but I did fast forward to the end of the stream, and the last 2 packs I think that they had to sell, one of them was guaranteed to have one of the major hit chaser cards, and the other one was not, and so you basically had a 50-50 chance at getting a chaser, which is not a $6,500 card. The $6,500 card is just one of the chasers, whereas the other chasers are more like maybe $500 to $1,500 or so. You can go back and check the VOD if you want to do all the math. There's a big CSI thing you can do with this. I'm just giving you the bare bones of what I was looking at. But in any case, that's what happened at the very end of the stream. So obviously those last 2 packs went for way over what this 560 average was and way over what the 475 advertised average was. But we'll go with what I saw during the middle of the stream, which was 560. So, assuming that Card Collector 2 and his team aren't fudging the numbers on their advertised values and they purchased the cards at 80% of comps, they spent on 100 cards an average of $475 per card times the 80% margin that they were paying to get these cards. It would have cost them $38,000 to run this casino game, or repack. They would have earned, out of those 100 cards, an average sales price of $560, $56,000, which gives you a take-home of $18,000 profit in 4 hours, which is a 53% ROI, and it literally took almost no effort and was pretty instantaneous in terms of you just bought all the cards on margin and you were able to sell them all in one day for 50% the value. So that's insane. If they were to do this once per week, for an entire year, that's $936,000. So if they just do this type of a stream and this type of a repack and this type of a game once per week for the entire year, they're going to profit $1 million just running these repacks, and that is pretty crazy in my opinion, and that goes to show you why at these shows there are these repackers going out and buying all these cards, because if you can put in $38,000 and in a night get back $56,000 and make $18,000 in a few hours, why would you not just keep going to the market and buying as many cards as you can at 80% and then selling them way over what they should sell for because of the way the average price and the psychology of everything works, and the gambling addicted people start spending more and more money. So it's this whole thing that's going on that is literally an infinite money glitch right now. So if you're an influencer running these, hats off to you. You're making money hand over fist. Is it moral? Is it ethical? People can spend money on what they want, but this is why they're doing it. They're making insane money, and it's very easy to do this if you have the audience for it. I'm not going to do it. I don't care to do it. I don't want to do repacks. I don't take this that seriously. But that is what is going on in terms of the repacks and the profits from it. So, other question on this, who's buying these? In my opinion, it's a cross-section of sports card enthusiasts and sports gamblers, probably shifting more towards the latter, but even then, I don't know why you would gamble on this as opposed to gambling on the actual game. Like, why are you buying into and I would love somebody that is going into repacks to explain this to me. Why are you gambling on a repack of sports cards when you could just gamble on the Timberwolves and Suns game, or you could gamble on a baseball game, or anything you want? Why are you choosing to gamble on sports cards? Why not play a slot machine? It's weird. I'm not sure, but I would be interested to hear from people who buy in repacks why they're doing that instead of all the different other avenues of gambling. So that's one of the cross sections that I think is buying into this. And the other one I think might be kids. Whatnot does say it's age restricted in terms of you have to be 18 plus in order to use the site. I don't know how they're enforcing that or if they're not enforcing it, but I was able to pull their age distribution of their user base from some sort of investment site had this data available for you. So you can see that their audience skews in that 25 to 34 range and then that 35 to 44 range, and there's also a pretty big chunk in the 18 to 24, but we don't know if people are lying about their age, so we'll just go with their numbers and assume that that's correct. So also, I wanted to put up here that 21 is the legal gambling age in the United States, depending on the jurisdiction and type of gambling that is going on. Generally, the legal age for sports betting and other casino gambling is 21, but activities like the lottery, daily fantasy sports, and horse betting are more commonly allowed at 18, so we'll go ahead and say that 18 is legal here for this pseudo-casino daily sports fantasy lottery game that these companies, influencers, and people are running. So, while not technically being illegal, it's a bit of a gray area here, at least in my opinion. So, like I said before, Whatnot is age restricted to 18 plus. How do they enforce that, if they even want to enforce that? I don't know, and I'm not sure. We know through video and probably through data, if people cared to be able to find that data, we know that Card Collector 2 and other influencers that are running these repacks, their audience skews into the ages under 18. I'm not saying that's the majority of their audience, but if you watch any of their content and their shows and the people that interact with them, a lot of them are under the age of 18. So they are, in essence, running a pseudo-gambling side of their business with a large chunk of their audience being legally unable to participate in it, whether that be because it's in that 18 to 21 gray area, or they're literally just under 18 and shouldn't be allowed to legally gamble. It's make your own assumptions with whether you think that's a good business ethically to be running or not. So I will say at the end of the slide, nobody is forcing people to buy into these packs. Of course, people can do what they want with their money. It's not my decision to choose how people spend their money, but in my opinion, it's a little strange to have a pseudo gambling business running while you're also marketing a lot of your content towards kids. It reminds me a lot of, if you've been on YouTube for about a decade, you remember the old CSGO Lotto gambling schemes that used to happen. You remember back when, oh my goodness, this was a long time ago, back when Jake Paul and Ricegum and the other YouTubers of that era were literally just running mystery boxes with Chinese products in them and pushing them onto their kid audience. It feels a little like that. I don't think it's as predatory, but it is a little strange to me to be running this gambling type game like this. In my opinion, of course. Feel free to make your own conclusions. And with that, of course, we'll go to the actual conclusion. So, the hobby, like with mainstream sports, continues to dip deeper and deeper into the gambling sector as opposed to just the pastime entertainment sector. Fanatics knows this, and heck, it's probably one of the main reasons they invested so much, and here's some evidence of that. This is from a New York Times article that came out in January. I'll read that Fanatics works closely with the sports leagues, which invested hundreds of millions of dollars in the company. It created new products with the leagues and became more than just-in-time supplier of licensed gear, allowing it to react quickly when players emerge as stars. Growth in this merchandising business has slowed, though, for Fanatics, and one reason that they're pushing into the collectibles industry as well as sports gambling is because they're trying to make more money. Obviously, Fanatics doesn't care about the hobby. They've never cared about the hobby. They just want money. I hope that's clear to everybody. Mystery boxes and repacks. This is taken straight from the Fanatics Live. So we didn't talk about Fanatics Live here. We talked about Whatnot. I could talk about this on Fanatics Live as well. I'm sure it's the exact same there. They allow mystery boxes and repacks, and with those bullet point rules, but they don't allow gambling. Which is a little strange to me because I think these are both the same thing, at least in my opinion. The legal opinion might be different, and there's probably no laws on the books that specifically talk about repacks, but by the definition of gambling, I personally think this would fall under it, but I'm not a legal expert, and feel free to talk to whatever legal experts or your representatives you want to about that and make your own conclusions. I just think it's funny to point out that mysteries and repacks are okay, while gambling is not. But with all that being said, what does this all mean? I personally don't know. Probably signifies that a large chunk of the participants in the market are just gamblers that don't actually care about the cards they acquire, whether it be the flipper channels that are treating these cards just as money-moving vehicles, or it be the people that are just running repacks or buying into repacks. it's pretty clear that they don't really care about the cards that they acquire. It's just a means to an ends of making more money. So because of things like that, I'm not super optimistic on the future of ultra modern cards, between the apparent lack of actual collectors for these cards, the overprinting, the grifts, the gimmicks, everything that's going on in ultra modern that is not focused on actually collecting the cards. Makes me nervous about the future for their collectability and value going forward. But for now, as I talked about before, this repacking thing is an infinite money hack for anyone that has an audience of impressionable followers or gamblers that is able to sell these. You're going to make buku bucks of money, because 50% ROI or 50% margins on your business is insane. I think most businesses consider, depending on what business you're in, anywhere between 10 and 30%, depending on your business, is like great margins to be running at. If you're running at a 50% margin and you're able to wash that away every single week, that's insane, and you should be hammering that as long as you don't care about the morality and ethics and all that kind of stuff, but which you don't have to, because you're a business and you're trying to make money, and I get that. So I'll leave that to you, the audience, to make your own conclusions about this one and about repacking. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. It's interesting to me. I don't know how the hobby has devolved into this state of what, in my opinion, looks like pure gambling, feels like pure gambling, but feel free to give your legalese in the description of why you don't think this is gambling, or just your general thoughts. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see when we come back with another video, and when I get more passionate about another subject, we'll see. But feel free to like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, send me a DM there, and I will see you guys in the next video.